Hey, what's up there, Internet Tour to the Max? Extreme here!
And Ghost Hunter Dave, moderately extreme over here.
We're continuing our event fatigue event, adding to the pile of Marvel events. I wish there was another name for event, but there isn't.
Box Social? Shindig.
Yeah!
Shindig.
And the shindig we're talking about today is House of M.
Oh my god. Troy, it feels like just yesterday that we talked about House of M.
Oh, it's funny you say that, Dave, because I felt the exact same way, you know?
Wow.
I felt like we talked for nearly 56 minutes about it.
Oh, man. And is it just me, or is the fatigue really setting in on this particular episode of the Shindig fatigue?
I am getting a little tired of this one.
A little dry
I just
mouth.
feel like...
A little itchy.
I feel like we've talked about this one a lot. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah. Do you want to fill the listeners in? Because nobody knows what we're talking about.
So we recorded this once, and in my frantic
Haste.
need, the haste, I was gonna have this edited, thrown over to you so you can put it on all the platforms that you need, only to find out that my half of the files was corrupted and lost half of the audio. So it would have been Dave talking to literally no one. And I legit thought that maybe I could go in there.
Any day in my house. No one listens to me here. But in their defense, I don't often say anything worth hearing, so...
I get that. I get that on this end over here.
It all evens out.
So, long story short, need a new laptop. Asked Dave to buy me one. He's still on the fence about it. I'm going to just throw that out there.
I just bought one for my son. I can't just be buying laptops like every week. People will start talking. They're going to be like, look at this guy over here. Another laptop coming to his home office. What is he doing?
He must be a hacker or something.
Yeah, they'll think I'm Angelina Jolie or Johnny Lee Miller from the 1990-something movie Hackers. And I can't live up to that.
No. I mean, who could?
Not
But we're not
me.
here to talk about hackers. We're talking House of M.
Right.
We're making this nice and tight today, Dave.
Exactly.
Not
We're already
around.
zeroed in on the goal of
I
keeping
think you
it
meant
under
we've talked
30
about
minutes.
it 0 minutes.
Right.
That's what you mean.
Yes. Exactly.
But House of M, written by BMB himself and drawn by Olivier Coipel. Found out he was French. And that is the exact pronunciation of his name to the T. Okay? Coipel's art in this, stellar. Could you agree?
Oh my god, it's like looking into the face of God and having him be a buff, strong-necked mountain of a man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then Assad Ribic is doing all these freaking ripping awesome covers.
Yes, my lord. Yeah, I should have known that was Ribic, but I just never put it together. Yeah, love the covers on this.
Mm-hmm.
You'd think we'd know what we're talking about, but nope.
You'd be dead wrong.
Dead wrong.
If you know the show at all, you know that's not true.
That's right. We pick a topic and we just fumble our way through it until we've reached a certain amount of time where I'm like, I don't want to edit any more of this, and then we're done.
Yep, that's how it works.
That's how it's been, and it's worked out pretty well so far, so we're going to keep that going.
Dust the hands off.
Yep.
We're done
Am I recording?
here.
Yes, I am. Okay.
Oh my god.
Firing on all cylinders.
So what is House of M all about here, Dave?
My lord. Can you use my audio from the last one? Just kidding. House of M is a bit of the follow-up to the first event that we covered in this podcast, Avengers Disassembled, where we revisit Scarlet Witch, who had something of a mental breakdown, resulting in the deaths of several Avengers teammates and the, I guess you'd say, the destruction of the Avengers as a whole. So we wonder...
cuckoo bananas.
What's that?
She went a little cuckoo bananas.
She sure did. Mm-hmm. She was off her rocker, if I can speak bluntly.
That was a tad over the top, but I'll accept it. That's fine.
Okay. All right, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to charge along here. Okay. So we wonder, what has Scarlet Witch been up to in the last 6 months? In that time, the Avengers have reformed under a new title. They're now the New Avengers. The world is slightly different. And we find out that Scarlet Witch has retired to Genosha under the care of her father, Eric Lehnsherr, Magneto, and her brother, Pietro, also Lehnsherr? What is his last name?
Maximoff.
Maximoff! Wait a minute. How does that work?
I think it has to deal with this weird cow creature that raised them.
I remember the cow creature.
Like this Bova. I think her name was like Bova or something like that. Like really
Bova
close.
Maximoff.
Yeah. I don't know if her last name was Maximoff, but we'll just say it was Bova Maximoff. Raised them from calves into the mutants that they are now.
Bova. That's like a pig person being named Porker. Or Swinely.
Oh my god. Yeah, that's the origins of Pietro and Wanda are very bizarre. When I think they're, because I don't know, is it like a retcon that they're the kids of Magneto, or were they always the kids of Magneto?
I thought it was like a retcon that suddenly they weren't anymore, but I don't
I know that.
Yeah.
I know
I
that's
have no idea.
History.
That's all I remember is like the X-Men animated series where that cow person raises them briefly. And I guess they were Avengers at one point, and there were 2 of them in the cinematic adaptations. I don't know. What's important is she's off her rocker, as I said before, so bluntly.
Yes.
And the Avengers find out that she's out there, and they need to come up with a contingency plan for Wanda. Like, what are we going to do with her? Because she could, theoretically, end reality as they know it. She's too powerful. She's a mutant, so she didn't study a trade and get really good at magic. She just had it dumped on her.
She was born this way, baby.
Yes, exactly. And Doctor Strange is like, and that's no good. You know how long it took me to get my degree in mystical arts? She phoned it in. She took like an online class. She does not have the cred. We need to talk about this. And they're like, so what do we do? Wolverine poses a question. What if we kill her? Met with outrage by some and acceptance by others. So
yeah, surprisingly, quite a few acceptance.
Yes. So without a clear resolution, they pack up, they head to Genosha, they go to investigate and find her, and before they can say Wanda Maximoff, Bovine Lehnsherr, a white light illuminates everything, and they wake up in an alternate reality where basically everyone's wish has come true. They're all living their best lives. Mutants are now the dominant species, and everyone is just having a great time, but as if it's always been this way. They have no memory of the past, except for Wolverine. He comes to, realizes he's a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, and this isn't adding up, and he's got to set things straight, so he goes off on a mission, meets up with a ragtag group of resistance fighters, and they take it to Genosha to track down Wanda, who they believe is being controlled by her father, Magnus, Eric Lehnsherr, Maximoff himself, Magneto, and set things straight. House of M. Moo! Played a little sound bite from Bova there.
Yeah, this was one of the probably very first events when I was getting into comics that I actually read, and one that has like not everlasting now because nothing ever is, but some very long lasting repercussions of it of the book as well. So this is a big title, Dave. House of M. It's so big that the entire publishing line changed. Like, it just wasn't an event that was coming out. Every book changed to a House of M title.
Right.
Such as, like, the Age of Apocalypse in the 90s, where all the books turned into, like, a tie-in to it. So, they put all their eggs in this basket. And you know what? I think it paid off. This was one of the best events, in memory, anyway, upon revisiting it. Like, I thought I had quite a lot of fun with this.
Yeah, when I look back at some of the major Marvel events, I feel like, there's kind of a downhill slant for a while, at least when Bendis is kind of on his tenure here, where they have a little bit of a diminishing return on them, and I feel like House of M kicks it off and really sets that high bar that not a whole lot of follow-up events could reach.
Yeah. I mean, there's some fun ones, and we'll get to them, no doubt. But House of M is, like, I feel like a nice tentpole event that really stuck its landing.
Yeah.
You know?
And it didn't hurt that you didn't have to know a whole lot about it. You also didn't have to keep up with all the tie-ins. And, it was just like a one and done. It had lasting effects, as you said, and it did have a little bit of a lead-in with Avengers Disassembled. But if you're coming in uninitiated, you could pick it up and read from issue 1 to 8 and be like, oh, yeah, that was a cool story. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then you'd be like, I'm interested to see the repercussions of this and where it leads from here.
For sure. Speaking of the tie-ins, there were plenty of them. But I think really only a few of them are worth reading. I really enjoyed the Spider-Man one because it really showed, like, him like being what he wanted to be, like he was a celebrity,
a professional wrestler.
Yeah, I don't know if he's an actual professional wrestler or not, but like
No, I don't think he is. But wasn't that what Peter dreamed of being in the first Spider-Man comic?
Oh yeah.
After he took it to Crusher Hogan or Bonesaw McGraw, depending on the medium.
Your continuity. Yeah. But his Uncle Ben is still alive. He's married to Gwen Stacy. He's got a son, and like he's living his best life. So later on in the book, when they take the boots to Scarlet Witch a little bit and things are reverted, like he is crushed in this, and it's easily it's easy to see why. Like, he always has, like, terrible luck in his books. That's notorious for his Spider-Man book. And to see him kind of get everything he wants, and then it all just pulled away from him again, it's crushing.
Oh, yeah. He gets it more than anybody, I feel like. And then on top of that, not only does he, when he's, in his best life there, and he realizes that he should be, the traditional Parker Luck living his worst life, not only that, once they stop everything and they go back to how it was, he still remembers everything that came before, too. So he remembers, oh my God, I had it all, but, we had to give it up. And he's, like, wrestling with this for a while. I don't know how the Spider-Man books went after that, if it did play any role, but you would think that would be something that really sticks with Peter, because not only has he had an entire lifetime of turmoil, but on top of that, he had an entire lifetime of everything going great. So how do those balance out?
I have not a clue. I doubt it really does. It just probably fucks with him until he wants to die or whatever.
Yep. Then he has himself a clone, and, there's bigger fish to fry moving forward.
There's obviously this is, I would say, like a heavy X-Men event. So there's a lot of X-Men tie-ins as well, but those I don't feel are as memorable, and I can't remember a dang thing that happened from them. But the Hulk had an interesting one. It wasn't like groundbreaking, like a Planet Hulk or something like that, but it felt like it was like a bit of a prelude to that kind of idea, where he's living with this like Aboriginal tribe in Australia, And he's got that
has,
cool,
the war paint.
tattooed look. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's absent from this entire crossover. Or not crossover, but event. Hulk is not seen at all, so he's only, like, in that peripheral side book, I guess.
Yeah. And then this also followed up with Decimation M as well, and that had a bunch of fallout from the tail end of this book where, Dave, you don't mind me...
Are we getting to it? Are we getting to it already?
Should we hold off? Should we hold off on it? Maybe get to it a little naturally?
I don't know. Nah, let's get to it.
All right. Well, at the end of this,
tight.
the fallout of this is that when they finally get to Wanda, she's like had enough, and she just exclaims that there should be no more mutants. And then that features another White event. And then when they get back to the original reality where they're usually from, find out that there's only 198 mutants left, and many of them have just been depowered completely.
My word.
And so that Decimation follow-up, like, mini event, I guess, I don't know, is, like, the fallout from that. Like, there's a book just called The 198. There's a whole book dedicated to just Quicksilver and how he's dealing with the fallout from he got depowered, and his sister is a whole thing that set this thing off, and so...
Yeah, he tries to kind of jumpstart the mutant gene by going to the Inhumans and releasing, like, a whole mess of Terrigen Mist, if I remember right.
Yeah, and it totally screws with him, too. And for a little bit, I think he... Like, it kind of gives him the same type of powers, but he keeps, like, dosing himself with it, and I think he gets, like, the ability to time travel a bit.
Yeah, I think we talked about this before, where I started reading that tie-in, and then, like, for whatever reason, when I was reading it issue to issue, way back when, I just lost interest in it. So I've never finished it, but that one seems like it would be kind of an interesting tie-in to follow up this event, but I could not tell you what happens in it outside of the main pitch.
Yeah, and I didn't go back and read any of those. I'm just trying to go off memory, but from what I remember, I think the fallout to all that stuff is more interesting than the tie-ins to the House of M event. Just my personal opinion, but
here's my other thoughts on that, because I started reading some of those X-Men books again after the House of M, like during the Decimation period. Yeah, and I think it's an amazing like kickoff, but I don't feel like anything of value happened afterwards. Like, any of the immediate follow-ups I thought were really dull and just not very well written. And it's a shame because, like, it's a great plot point, you know, like they were going to be the next step of human evolution, and now they're all dying out, and it ends up, you know, just being kind of like a blip on the radar of the grand scheme of, you know, the Earth and everything.
Yeah.
And I think, like, that would have been a really cool way to take the series, and I guess maybe I didn't read enough of them. Maybe there were some good ones in there, and if somebody has kept up on X-Men, if they could recommend some good post House of M books, I would be up for that. But it seemed like it wasn't until like maybe Messiah Complex that it started getting actually interesting again, where they do almost like a Children of Men take on it, where there's like the first mutant birth in years, and then Cyclops becomes, you know, like almost this Malcolm X type of character who's doing everything he can to keep the mutant race going.
Yeah.
And, what is it, like, up until Hickman takes over, like, the mutants are still kind of an endangered species.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, because even in Hickman's book, they have, like, a whole timeline of, like, just mass extinctions of mutant race, and it's, like, the genocide of Genosha, they got the White event.
Oh, yeah.
All that stuff. And I think there's even like another one where a lot more die, and it's like, how many are even left at this point?
I know.
Just the X-Men?
Yeah, if they had only 198, that is not many. And like they all happen to be pretty much in North America under the X-Mansion. Like, I mean, there's enough to have X-Men titles, so there's still quite a few there. What happened to all the other mutants in the world? Like, why are only the X-Men still powered? And not all of the X-Men, like Iceman is one of the notable ones that is depowered until he isn't anymore and he gets him back. Blob gets depowered and all of his fat goes away and he's just got horrible like skin folds and flaps, which is disgusting. To the point where, like, when he finds this out, he tries to kill himself by cutting his throat, but there's too many skin folds that he can't get the knife through it,
God.
which is just insane. Like,
horribly depressing.
What? I'm not fat anymore. I want to die, but I can't cut through all this skin. Obviously, he's not trying hard enough. You can't have that much skin.
Well, that's a lot of skin, Dave.
I don't know.
He's showing a lot of skin.
He's got a lot of skin.
But I think a strength of this book, if we can jump kind of in the middle of it, is that I love that they have a bit of like a proto street level New Avengers team that Bendis kicks in later with like Luke Cage and like Cloak and all these street level characters.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, he has a very strange team where until they like named them, I probably couldn't have even picked out who they are because they're all in pretty much like civilian street gear.
Yeah.
But Luke Cage looks great in it. He's got some badass cornrows and he operates out the back of a club. He has like Danny Rand and Mark Spector, Iron Fist and Moon Knight.
Yep.
Missy Knight and Black Cat were pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And then I guess those are kind of the main ones outside of Hawkeye makes a return in this. So he's been dead since Avengers Disassembled, but he exists in this universe, and he really flips shit when he finds out what happened to him, and he's kind of an oddball during all of this. I never quite know how to take Hawkeye in Bendis' run.
Yeah.
Like, he gets really upset by all this, and he's the only one that won't allow the real like repressed memories to reemerge in himself. He just seems like he's not a team player. I don't know. Costume looks great though. The revamped Hawkeye costume is fantastic in this.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that because I brought it up the first time we recorded. If you're a fan of Hawkeye's costume in general,
no,
because I think it looks great in this. But I do not like the original Hawkeye costume at all.
Yes, yep, I'm in total agreement there. I think we mentioned like his ultimate look, which kind of carried over into the movies, where it's just basically, you know, like kind of a jumpsuit with the sleeves cut out, is pretty good. Mm-hmm. And then what Matt Fraction and David Aja crafted for their Hawkeye miniseries, which is essentially just like a t-shirt with an arrow on it. I think that's perfect. And sunglasses. Right. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the simplicity of it. Like, he doesn't have to have all that fanfare and have the big fins on his head. He doesn't need any of that shit.
Yeah, for a while it seemed like they just were throwing those fins on everybody. What was up with those fins?
I have no idea. But I would like to pose that question to anybody listening to this. Are you a fan of Hawkeye's costume? Yes or no? Let us know in the comments, because I feel like it can spark
I don't even mind the purple. I just don't like that mask.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, me neither.
And the chainmail seems unnecessary, too.
I mean, maybe because, like, just the hawk in general, it makes it look like a bird-like or so. But I don't get it from, like, the classic costume. Maybe a little bit more in this one, where it makes it a bit more bird-like, maybe. But other than that, I don't think so.
Speaking of hawks, I was out in our pool today. Storm came brewing. Saw two hawks just screeching at each other as a bunch of other birds were flying around. I thought we were at the proverbial end of days. We had a storm front moving in, the wind was kicking up, and then these hawks were just like dive bombing this flock of birds. It was unsettling. We all ran back into the house. We had enough of that.
Oh, yeah. One would. Are you kidding me? It's the rapture outside.
It certainly is. And we're all still here, so we know we made the right choice.
But what else happened in House of M?
We should bring up, is it Layla Miller?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so Wolverine wakes up. He has his memory. He is the only person that has his memories. And he, like, hops ship, literally, because he's on a S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier, when his girlfriend Mystique is like, so, what's wrong? He's like, and jumps overboard and plummets down, like, through a skyscraper below. Patches himself up, and then runs across a young girl named Layla Miller, who is the only other person, apparently, in this world that remembers the old life. And she's an original character created for this event. And I guess that's kind of her power. She can make people remember. And she has, like some telekinetic abilities? Or what's her deal? What's she done lately?
So, she's still a character. She is introduced in this, and then she joins kind of like the X-Men canon following this. She ends up having like a relationship with Multiple Man later on. And this is only what I got from reading the wiki, because I didn't know anything about her. But she goes by like the codename Butterfly. And like, really, if you look up her wiki, like the only power that they give her in this book is like that she just, quote, knows stuff.
Wasn't that how they described what Scarlet Witch did in Avengers 2? Or, like, does weird stuff. It's like, all right, I'm not even going to try to unpack this. Let's just say she's weird.
But then, I think later on she has, like, other mutant abilities that make people... I think it's, like, almost, like, revive from the dead, maybe, if I'm remembering correctly. But they don't have a soul afterwards.
Oh,
I'm not sure. It just seems like quite a departure from knows stuff to revive the dead.
The soulless undead. Yeah, that's odd.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, she was a total like Bendis archetype character where, you know, it's this kind of young girl that is brought in, super powerful, like definitely a linchpin to the entire event. And then when he's done with her, she's never used again.
Right. And then another fun fact in this too is now that since like the mutants are numero uno in this universe, it's like I guess some of them aren't doing the superhero thing because like Cyclops and Emma Frost are just like living together.
Yeah.
And like it looks like they just have regular jobs.
I know. He's like getting his briefcase and going to work. And we laughed about this last time where they had their wildest dreams come true, like their ultimate wish. And apparently Cyclops' ultimate wish was not like for Jean Grey to be brought back from the dead, but to just live, like work a 9-to-5 job and have a condo with Emma Frost. Further cementing him as the most boring vanilla character in Marvel canon.
Oh my god.
Because they can straight up revive the dead. Uncle Ben is alive and well. But he's like...
That's true.
Wanda's like, you know, I bet you miss Jean. And he's like, well, you know what I miss? Punching a time clock. Miss those nights and holidays off. Tell you the truth.
Oh my.
And maybe a hot British girl.
Yeah, because like almost every other like high-profile superhero in this gets like high acclaim. Like Spider-Man becomes a celebrity. Carol Danvers is like a big deal. There's some mutants that become SHIELD agents and like high-ranking officers. But then really all the rest
Cyclops
of the other mutants
is a celebrity accountant.
Yeah. You can crunch those numbers with the best of them. But
yes.
But you have like Hank McCoy, like he's never actually now in his beast form. He's just his normal big hands, big feet mode or whatever.
Yeah.
And like he's using his big brain as being a scientist along with Hank Pym, and that's a fun little interaction right there where it shows like the definite role reversal from where they originally are to where they are in this book, where the mutants are like, you know, top cow, and then humans are just like the lowest life form on Earth. It seems like that's how it seems like when Hank McCoy is talking to Henry Pym.
Yeah, he's talking down to him like, you know, I'm sure no species wants to know that they're going extinct, so I can't imagine how this feels for you. But it's like, I'm sorry, I feel bad for you. You know, most animals wouldn't know that they're reaching their own demise. And I always think it's so weird when like the mutant and human interaction compares them as like different species, where it's like you are essentially the same, you know, it's almost like a black and white type of thing, except maybe some of you can shoot lasers out of your eyes. You know, like you have the same level of like cognizance and intelligence for the most part, so you're not like that superiorly advanced, you just have like special powers.
Yeah.
So to talk down to a fellow scientist, I'm like, come on, Hank, you've been on the other end of this conversation. How's it feel?
Come on, Hank.
Hank.
Come on, Hank. Get with it.
Get your act together. You're not representing the mutant race very well.
That's right. So Layla Miller is awakening a bunch of other heroes to have them remember their past life before the one that they're in right now. They all gang together to go take it to Scarlet Witch.
With the exception of Captain America.
Yeah, because he's just an old codger at this point.
That's all he wanted, was just to grow old. They get to his apartment, like in Brooklyn. He's an old man in a baseball cap, and they're like, I think we're good without this one.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're trying to find Scarlet Witch, and then I think Emma Frost and Layla Miller are also trying to find Xavier.
Yes.
And they find that they find Scarlet Witch, but they also find a grave for Professor Xavier, but the grave is empty.
Oh, well, it's a memorial garden, right? And they realize he's not buried there under the plaque.
Right.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. Did we talk about that last time where it's like, we don't know when Xavier actually comes back because he's absent from X-Men books after this event, correct?
Yeah, this was strange because as we were discussing this the first time, I was like, so do they wrap up what happens to Xavier? I remember they find his grave, but what happens then? And I don't think anything happens then. I think they see it and they're like, oh man, we're effed. But then they find another way out, but we don't ever like circle back to Xavier. And then in the further adventures of New Avengers, I think they do a Illuminati one-shot, and Professor X is still absent from that. So they're like, yeah, he's MIA after this. And I could not tell you when he reappears. Maybe we'll find out going forward.
Oh my. The mystery continues.
Mm-hmm. But they did determine that in order to pull off this entire ruse on the world, they did need to like use his mental powers to do it. Like they kind of mixed him and Scarlet Witch's powers together. And in doing so, he's been like obliterated out of existence, or at least he's somewhere else right now. We don't know where he's at. They don't give any hints.
Right.
I'm assuming Bendis didn't even know at this point. He's like, we're going to take him off the board. We're going to Professor X him, as they normally do. And we'll figure out what he's up to later. If anyone has any ideas, let me know.
Yeah. And that's pretty much all the beats that I really like from this book. They do tease something at the very end like Bendis would. It's like, well, all that collective energy from all these mutants just can't just disappear. It has to be somewhere. Right. And that comes back in something we'll follow up with in our next coverage of this event fatigue.
Next installment, we're going to take another little break in between here to catch up with the New Avengers and a couple other not even tie-ins, but other like kind of minis that I think will pay off down the road if we address them early.
Yes. But yeah, House of M, solid read. I would recommend if you're doing this along with us or just curious about the event in general, I think you'd have a good time with it.
Mm-hmm. Or if you've read it when it came out and you haven't touched it since, give it a reread. I think it aged very well. You know, sometimes some of these seem a little out of touch or a little dated. This one I felt held up very strongly.
Yeah.
It's a Wolverine-centric book, too, which, it might turn some people off, it might get some people on, but I think it worked very well as a Wolverine-centric book, and it also kind of leaves us with the realization that going forward, Wolverine now remembers his entire past for the first time ever. So that's interesting, too.
Darn tootin'. But yeah, House of M, great. What do we got coming down the pipeline for our next event fatigue stop if people want to read along with us?
Yeah, well, Troy, I think we should dig into the next couple arcs of New Avengers. If we remember, we read the first two arcs, the Breakout and the Century, last time. Let's do the next two. So that's going to give us, like, Ronin and Spider-Woman's backstory. And then also the Collective, which is the collective energy from the aforementioned House of M repercussion. It's a lot of big words there. It's a lot of $5 words. So we'll do that. And then I also wanted to kind of look at a couple minis, like the Century Miniseries, which I went back and reread because he plays a fairly big role going forward, and he's a new character. And also the Hood miniseries, which I just read. Yes. And these are two of my favorites. And I reread them, and you know what? One held up better than the other.
Oh, find out next episode.
Yep. And then I think then after that, let's dig into Planet Hulk.
Ooh, awesome.
Which I just read for the first time.
Whew.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Are you gonna dive into the animated movie as well?
No.
Okay.
I've seen it. I can talk about it, but I'm not gonna rewatch it.
Fair enough.
All right. I'll leave that to
sweet.
you. You can chime in on it.
All right. Well, there's not really much I got to say about it. It's very abridged, and there's only differences because Fox owned a few characters, so they couldn't use them.
But you know what? It's a change that I appreciated. I like them both. The major change I think we're both talking about.
Yeah.
The gladiator that he fights.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We'll talk about that next time.
Yeah,
or
okay.
Later.
All right, then I'll hold my tongue on that. No, I won't. I'm just going to say it real quick. I couldn't believe how much Thor Ragnarok pulled from Planet Hulk. Like, I knew there was definite ties to it, but I didn't realize how close Thor Ragnarok follows Planet Hulk. Probably more than any Thor comic out there.
Oh, yeah. It is almost all Planet Hulk with a sprinkle of Thor in it.
Yeah, it's like they couldn't make Planet Hulk, so they just made a Thor movie and then just did Planet Hulk in it.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's good. And then, like, I'll mention this. I don't know if I'm going to bring it in and say it's, like, one of the things we're going to cover. I'll talk briefly on it, but I'm reading the Captain America run by Brubaker right now because... When we get to Civil War, which will be coming after Planet Hulk, so we're talking like 3 episodes down the line, I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's something big that happens right after Civil War in the Captain America book. And I wanted to read that like in real time there, because it's a huge event that plays big repercussions through the Marvel Universe for quite some time. So I was like, well, we got to touch on that. Sure. And while we're at it, I might as well read that Captain America run, like the Winter Soldier and everything, because I've always heard it's amazing, and I've never read it. So I'm like halfway through that right now, and it is quite good.
Whew.
Yeah.
I've never read that run either, that Brubaker run.
Do you own it?
I don't, actually. I own the tail end of it. On a return, but I don't own the rest of it. It's always been on my wish list to get, and I just never bit it.
Okay.
So.
Well, I'll fill you in a little bit, unless you somehow get your hands on it before that. But I might touch on that a little bit next episode. That'll be like a catch-all. It'll be kind of everything that's going on in the Marvel Universe during this time period that's going to eventually lead to something bigger.
Righteous.
All right.
Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode. I didn't say it up top, but if you wanted to, you could download this episode and take it with you instead of watching it on YouTube. And you can find that pretty much on any podcast platform there is. If you wanted to, there is a merch store at redbubble.com. Just search Imperius Rex. You can find some fun things here or there if you're interested. If you would like to be a patron, that option is there for you as well. We got exclusive perks just for them, exclusive podcasts when we do them, and some funny videos that we don't just throw up anywhere. It's just exclusively for them.
You can be part of the community, this
supportive
community that keeps our lights on in your internet working terribly.
And if you get in early enough, there's going to be a summer perk for patrons.
That's right.
So it'll be a good time. Get in while you can for this summer.
Get in, get out.
And get fucked.
I don't think we swore this whole episode. I didn't have to put the mature tag on there, but you done did it. Unless they do like a PG-13 where you get one F-bomb, then I think we're still in the clear.
Safe. Good deal.
Yep.
But that's going to do it. So until next time, I have been Short of the Max Extreme.
And I've been Ghost Hunter Dave.
And this has been Imperius Rex. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Imperius Rex. 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 Imperius Rex.